Yeah, so head of web development, what does that mean? I mean, it's a job or role that every company does different. In my case, it does mean a lot of development, but also teaching interns and some new hires how to work with Ruby, and usually Ruby on Rails. About 1 year ago, I also taught 2 semesters at the local university in Cluj. So there as well, I worked a lot with students. And I got to realize that a lot of people have some difficulty learning new languages. They usually switch a lot, especially in university. And one specific student asked me, if you had to recommend me one language that I will learn, that I should learn, what would that be? And I might be biased because I really love Ruby, but I was thinking about doing a short talk here on why that might be. And I have a short question for you. How many of you started with a different language than Ruby? Oh, quite a lot. Okay, that's what I was expecting. So I hope that you thinking about Ruby being your first language might make you realize that some concepts might have been easier to learn in a language that is in the language that is Ruby. So I was thinking about the core concepts that they should know, and usually it's an intro to programming. That's usually algorithms and data structures, problem solving. Data structures especially being very, very important here. Then maybe a paradigm like object-oriented programming, and also in the end, like building a bigger project, web development, maybe software engineering, working with in teams, a little bit with Agile, and so on. And I really think that Ruby is the perfect language for this. And on the right, you can see that ChatGPT agrees with me. Of course, I had to do like 5 previous inputs before that, but we got there. So why is Ruby here the actual winner? So the idea is that discussing with ChatGPT and also with some friends, we realized that students and people that try to get into programming really like easy to learn languages. Syntax really helps a lot. And you'll see in the next slide, imagine how you're building a hash map in C++, how you're doing it in Java, and then how you're doing it in Ruby. It's a lot more close to the visual aspects of how hash actually looks like, and that actually makes you understand data structures a lot easier. Also, then you have a lot of built-in core concepts. I don't think that Ruby or Rails miss any of the concepts that you have to use day to day as a junior developer especially. And compared to other languages like a lot of discussions before JavaScript, you don't have to choose which extension, which package, which gem you have to include in your Ruby program, into your Rails web app, because you have most of the things you need built in. And even if you do, things are a lot easier because usually you have at most 1 or 2 obvious choices to choose from. Then you will obviously need a strong framework, and I think that Ruby is a very, very strong framework. We've seen other frameworks inspired from Rails, and I think that especially working with an ORM helps here a lot. So one of the use cases that I actually see is when we choose interns, we actually do a test with them, and it includes one algorithm problem and one database problem. And they don't know Ruby before, and they don't know Active Record before, obviously, and it usually gets very, very overcomplicated, especially for people that use Java or C++, and for people that use pure SQL. And after 2 weeks where they get to know Active Record and where they get to know the Ruby language, usually they don't really make mistakes. The naming is very, very clean. The methods are also always single responsibility, and the database design makes a lot of sense. So this works very, very well because of the Ruby and the Rails doctrine, which for Ruby is optimized for developer happiness, of course, and for Rails is convention over configuration. We really want our students to take care of learning the concepts and using them instead of having to define JDBC connection strings that never work, of course. Yeah, but I don't want to be here, the guy that always says that Ruby is perfect and you should always speak Ruby. Of course, this is not the case. There are some very important university courses that are not perfect with Ruby. For example, when you're trying to learn threads and parallelism, that's not really Ruby's strongest point. Also, it's interpreted and dynamically typed, which sometimes might be a little bit of a challenge for new developers, especially if they're coming from another language. And in the end, it's not the most popular in some spaces. So, for example, if you're in a smaller area where Ruby is not really that looked for, you might have issues with getting a job. But in the end, I think that if you would have, let's say, a few weeks to go through and to recommend the language for someone to go through a bootcamp, for example, and their, let's say, goal really is trying to get into web development as fast as possible, but getting to know the concepts really, really well and understanding what programming really is, Ruby and Rails might be the great choice. That was it for me. I'd be happy to chat with you. If you have any questions, we'll talk in the break room, and I hope to see you around in the next days. Thank you very much.